Hello and welcome to ThePrint. The US presidential elections will take place in November this year, and incumbent President Joe Biden will be seeking re-election. But who will be his rival? And that's a very good question that's currently being debated as the Republican nomination race is underway. Donald Trump is leading in this race, with others like Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis behind him. However, in what appears to be the latest scandal to hit Trump, he has been ordered to pay over 83 million US dollars in a defamation lawsuit. So let's discuss what this lawsuit is. On Saturday, a Manhattan court ordered Trump to pay American journalist E. Jean Carroll over $83 million for defaming her in 2019 after denying rape allegations that she had made against him. Now, the 5-day trial played out in a Manhattan court, a federal court, and the jury ruled in Carroll's favor and supported her claim for damages. Now, you might be wondering what are all these legal terms, defamation, damages. To put it simply, a defamation case is when one person sues another for hurting their reputation. And this is either done through slander or libel. Now, the reason such cases come to court is because it's not about just hurting someone's reputation. Sometimes the person can claim financial damages, and that defamation has caused them to lose out on work, a stream of income, or financial opportunities. And therefore, when suing, one person, the defendant, can claim damages. In the case between Carroll and Trump, the jury awarded Carroll an initial $65 million in damages, and then an additional $18.3 million in compensatory damages. Now, let's talk a little bit about who E. Jean Carroll is, the woman at the center of this defamation lawsuit. Currently 80 years old, Carroll is an American journalist, author, and columnist. In fact, she first rose to fame for her Ask E. Jean column that appeared in Elle magazine from 1993 to 2019. She also had her own television show at one point in her career. Now, in 2019, Carroll wrote an op-ed for New York Magazine where she first accused Trump of sexually assaulting her in the 1990s. She claimed the incident took place in a clothing departmental store in around 1995 or early 1996. This was one of 6 incidents that Carroll detailed in her article of attacks she faced by men throughout her career. It was the cover story of New York Magazine when the issue came out back then, and Carroll even wore the outfit she claims she was wearing the day the incident with Trump happened. Now, Sarah Jones from The Intelligencer points out that by the time Trump's alleged assault on Carroll took place around 1995 or early 96, Trump's ex-wife Ivana had already claimed that Trump violated her during their marriage. Ivana made the claim during their divorce litigation, but she later recanted the claim when Trump launched his presidential campaign ahead of the 2016 elections. Now, following the jury's decision on Saturday, Carroll said in a statement, "This is a great victory for every woman who stands up when she's been knocked down, and a huge defeat for every bully that has tried to keep a woman down." Trump, meanwhile, criticized the US legal system on his own social media site called Truth Social. "I fully disagree with both verdicts. Our legal system is out of control and being used as a political weapon. They have taken away all First Amendment rights. This is not America." The former president and real estate tycoon plans to appeal against the decision from the jury. Now, here's how this could have political ramifications for Trump ahead of the US presidential elections. Already, he's been at the center of a slew of legal battles. Just last August, he was indicted for allegedly playing a role in attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election in the state of Georgia. And then last April, he was charged with business fraud for hush money payments to ex-adult actress Stormy Daniels. And then in 2021, he was impeached following the Jan 6 Capitol riots attack, making him the first US president in history to be impeached twice. And now the case involving E. Jean Carroll, including the massive payout, $83 million, has sent new shockwaves. In the political arena, however, Trump is leading in the race for the Republican nomination, ahead of others like Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, who I had mentioned earlier in the beginning. Now, you might be wondering, what is a Republican nomination? Well, just like a Democratic nomination, there is a Republican nomination in that politicians within those parties will compete against fellow party members to become the presidential nominee. Now, parties have a complex process through which they pick nominees. Usually, a party will hold what is known as a primary in various states, and primary voters will pick between, say, Nikki Haley or Donald Trump as their preferred presidential nominee for that particular party. This happens in many states, and accordingly, a candidate must accumulate a certain number of delegates across states to win the party's nod to become its presidential candidate. Primaries are usually held 6 to 9 months before a presidential election. And so recently, the New Hampshire Republican primary took place, in which Donald Trump won a majority of the vote share. But Nikki Haley also performed better than what polls had predicted. And this is why she has emerged as the second person in the race, putting up a decent fight against Trump so far. But as with many primaries, the battle for a nomination can get quite messy, even between politicians from the same party. Tensions have only been growing between Nikki Haley and Donald Trump in the last few weeks. Haley, who is an Indian origin politician and also served as the former South Carolina governor and a US ambassador, has been trading barbs with Trump. In an interview with Fox recently, she said he was totally unhinged. And this was after he mocked her clothing, called her bird brain, and repeatedly mispronounced her first name as Nimrata instead of Nimrata. Earlier this week, Trump warned that anyone who contributes to Nikki Haley's campaign financially would be permanently barred from MAGA camp. Now, MAGA is a reference to Trump's infamous 2016 presidential slogan called "Make America Great Again." And this statement from Trump was seen as sort of a sharpening of his rhetoric, in that he's seeking to garner support from all sides of the Republican spectrum while also cutting down his rival. But the recent defamation suit against Trump has given Haley fresh ammunition against her opponent. In a statement on X, she said, Donald Trump wants to be the presumptive Republican nominee, and we're talking about 83 million in damages. We're not talking about fixing the border. We're not talking about tackling inflation. America can do better than Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Now, it's difficult to say whether this new scandal will hurt Trump's chances at the Republican nomination. I mean, he's already won the Iowa and the New Hampshire primaries and is comfortably ahead of Haley in the Republican nomination race. Another Republican politician who is also Indian origin, Vivek Ramaswamy, stepped out of the Republican nomination race recently and appeared to endorse Trump, while also accusing Nikki Haley of being propped up by puppet masters. And this has also fueled speculation that Vivek Ramaswamy could join Trump's ticket as vice president should he secure the Republican nomination. Now, the next Republican primaries to look at will be Nevada and South Carolina. If Nikki Haley is able to bag one of these major states and get a majority vote share there, she could definitely shrink Trump's lead. But before we conclude, you might be wondering whether Trump will have to pay up in the defamation case while he appeals, the defamation case against E. Jean Carroll. Now, that's a complicated question. You know, a detailed report by Ben Protess and Maggie Haberman in the New York Times explains that he may not have to pay the court the full 83 million US dollars while his appeal is underway, but perhaps a sizable sum while he waits. He could also try to secure a bond, meaning a type of investment in debt, which will prevent him from having to pay the full amount upfront. But it's really interesting to see how this report by the New York Times has sort of, shed light on Trump's financial capabilities. Because even though Trump has touted himself as a real estate tycoon and a billionaire, this report points out that a lot of his wealth is tied to the value of his properties. And also in the past, he's had to dip into money provided by his political action committee to pay for legal fees in criminal indictments and civic trials. So the big question is, can he reach into his pocket for this $83 million payout? This case is sure to be interesting, especially as the US presidential elections near. And we at The Print will be covering this very closely. So stay tuned for the latest updates. This is Pia Krishnankutty for The Print.